Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccer rules.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How Are the podcast, and you join us as we put last week's off day at West Ham behind us and look forward to the lads being back in action. And this time it's in front of the cameras on Monday night against Burnley in a game that kicks off just an hour after the transfer window closes. Sunderland are of course looking to bounce back after last week, and we would like to keep our unbeaten record at home while hopefully looking up the table rather than down. But Burnley are desperate for points as they are 10 away from safety, and the likes of West Ham, and apologies for that last week, and Nottingham Forest are picking up points ahead of them at the moment. So luckily for us, we have someone to help us out with what's going on at Burnley, because we have Joe Redmond from the Burnley FC fan channel TurfCast. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, how's things?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good on a personal level. Not so good when it comes to the football club. Obviously, 10 points adrift there. It's obviously I know the game between us on Monday night is technically February, but obviously we're recording this in January, so it's like the 29th of January now as we speak, and the season's done and dusted in my eyes. Like, I just want it to be August again now. Like, not that I'm wishing us to be relegated or I'm one of them fans that's like, I prefer the Championship anyway. Just because I just want to reset and go again.
Yeah, because I was going to say a quick welcome back, actually, because this isn't your first time on the pod, of course. You were on with Gav back in the summer as we talked to you and a Leeds fan as well about the season ahead. I mean, I imagine you'd like to go back to that time of optimism back in the summer.
Yeah, well, more optimistic than what I am now, definitely. I wouldn't say I was optimistic about Burnley's chances or any of our chances, to be fair. Obviously, you boys have gone on like an absolute rocket. There's no chance you boys will be relegated now. I think I was talking to somebody recently and I said you could literally lose every single game between now and the end of the season. Maybe draw 3 in there and you'd probably stay up. So you can have an absolute capitulation. Like, your form has been a little bit iffy recently. Well, not iffy. I'd love that sort of form, but iffy from what it was at the start of the season. So yeah, you boys aren't going to get relegated. But yeah, I did think all 3 of us would go down, if I'm honest, at the start of the season. And yeah, it's looking like it'll just be us now.
Yeah, well, you are forgetting that it is Sunderland, and we were the first side to actually be relegated with 40 points back in 1987, I think, which is always a Sunderland type thing to do. But anyway, we'll get back to the details of where Burnley are at the moment, because said in the introduction you're from Burnley FC fan channel TurfCast. So and you founded that, didn't you? So how long have you been doing that?
2018, I founded it. Yeah. Not to give too much detail and dox myself as the saying seems to be these days, but basically, I always sort of I actually went to University of Sunderland to do my masters.
All right.
So I always did journalism at university. I went up to did a year sub editing, and then I went up to Sunderland to do my masters, and I got some jobs here and there, freelancing in little bits. Kept getting jobs at like radio stations, newspapers, and then like working there for 6 months or something, and then being let go. And I got a job at Radio Yorkshire in Leeds, covering Leeds United. In the Bielsa years, actually. So that were quite good. I enjoyed it. But once again, got made redundant in 2018, the year that Burnley were in Europe, actually. And my son had just been born. I remember saying to my partner at the time, his mum, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep just having a stop-start career. So then I went into something else, and now I do sort of like TV directing and things like that. But I did miss the content creation side of it. So I'm like, I'll just start a YouTube channel. Well, it originally was just a podcast, hence why it's called TurfCast Podcast originally. But then I just wanted something to scratch that itch. So then, I started this in 2018. So yeah, pushing 8 years in the summer. And I've enjoyed it. It's been good. Like, there's been some hairy moments. There's been some moments where the club have fallen out with me and things like that. But I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, but Burnley in Europe, the best computer game never made, by the sounds of it, when you read it out there. But yeah, because I noticed on your bio, you always, you work for BBC, Sky Sports, and TalkSport. So, what does your kind of typical week look like in terms of kind of dealing with all of that reporting?
Yeah, well, I don't work for them, but obviously because I mean, you guys will get it as well, because we do the podcast. I'll sometimes get people from TalkSport, 5 Live, The Overlap, Sky Sports reach out to me like, do you want to come on here? Want us a quick chat about Burnley versus Sunderland this weekend, for example. So no, I don't work for any of them. I've been on Football Focus as well. I did that earlier this year, actually. So there's been some. This is what I mean. Like, there's been some really good moments, and like sometimes I do look back and I think, yeah, you know what, like, I do think like sometimes fan channels and podcasters and content creators, I hate that term though, don't get the respect that they deserve. But I think sometimes people don't realise the amount of hard work that we can put into these channels. Bearing in mind we have jobs as well, or some of us who create content for the smaller clubs like myself have jobs. I've got a 7-year-old son as well. I'm not with his mum anymore, so I've got like a new partner. So it's trying to balance all of that as well at the same time, and then shoehorning a podcast in here and there. But when I do take a step back, and I thank you for asking this question, by the way, because sometimes you just don't take the step back, do you? And it's made me sort of like reflect. But yeah, when I look back and I created this from scratch, I originally did it with a friend. He ended up leaving under a cloud and all this. So that you look at it sometimes and think, yeah, it's there's been these moments that you think maybe I should have stopped. But then when you take a step back and like, hold on, I was live on Football Focus, I've been on the Overlap twice, been on Sky Sports Live a few times. I was on BBC 5 Live literally the other night. They rang me at 6:20 in the morning. Obviously, I agreed to it the night before. I'm just in there in bed talking about Burnley Spurs. I'm like, yeah, it's a good game. Yeah, I've enjoyed it, man. It's been a good ride, and obviously I'm sure you guys will have similar experiences as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you've said that about how much time I put into it, because sometimes I forget just how much time we take doing all this. But yeah, on the TV front, me, Gav, and Martin definitely decided that we've got faces for podcasts and audio only. We quite often turn the TV stuff down. But anyway, going on to Burnley, how far back does your love of Burnley go then?
All my life, basically. Born in 88. I don't want to sound ridiculously old to some of your listeners, or ridiculously young to some. I don't know what your sort of like demographic is.
Don't worry, I'll sound older. Don't worry about that.
And I lived on a street called Prescott Street. Now, I don't know if you've been to Turf Moor or you've ever walked around, because I'm one of them. If I sometimes go to a new ground, I like to walk around it. I don't know why, it's a weird thing. I've done it with the Stadium of Light several times. And there's a pub sort of like down near the club shop. And that pub, that the Prescott Street, is essentially just behind it. So you could see the turf from my mum's bedroom window. And there was sort of like a playing sort of like park as well on there. And sometimes before we had a season ticket, I just used to climb to the top of the climbing frame and just watch the crowd celebrate. Well, I think we've scored. I think So basically all my life, my dad reckons he used to take me on before I were even walking sometimes. So like if he wanted to go on the match and my mum were working and he didn't want to miss it. So obviously it were terraces back then, so he couldn't just plonk me on the seat next to him. So he said he once took me on in like a baby carrier. And like he said, I didn't last at all. He said like 10 minutes in, I was bawling my eyes out, which obviously I have no memory of. So I refused to take any stick for that. But yeah, pretty much all my life, mate. Like there's been like some people will go back and they'll say, oh, my first game was in 1973. Leighton James scored a great goal against Manchester. There's none of that for me. It's just always been there. Like I said, my dad were taking me on before I could walk. I think I had a season ticket by the time I was about 4 or 5, apparently. So yeah, it's always been there, mate. But yeah, one of my earliest memories is when we won Division 4 in 1992. I weren't there, but I just sort of like remember sort of like there being a big fuss in the town about it, because, like I said, we're in the bottom division. We've been there for 7 years, I think, and like it's like you guys fell obviously to League One. Like we did that in the 70s, but we fell all the way down to what is now League Two, obviously Division 4. Spent so long there. Took a while to get back, but yeah, managed to get back. And yeah, sort of like in primary school and high school, going home and away every single week. Obviously, as you get a little bit older, you don't get a chance to do that as much due to work, kids, things like that. And the fact that we're awful. That's put me off going to Sunderland, for example. Like, I think it's the first time I've not been to the Stadium of Light when we played for years, because like I said, I know quite a lot of people up in Sunderland because I lived there for a year. But yeah, there's no specific moment, unfortunately. And the best memories for me are probably Europe, winning division, finishing second in Division 2, winning the Premier League at the Premier League, I wish. Winning the Championship and being promoted to the Premier League at Ewood Park. Things like that as well. Reading away, Wembley 2009. So yeah, obviously a lot of memories down the way, but I am 37 now, so there's going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned when you Leighton James there. I think that would have piqued the interest of a lot of Sunderland fans because a lot of memories of him at Sunderland. But
Yeah,
just going to ask, I was just looking through some of those years because I mean those for me are the glory Championship manager years. Thinking of your heroes back then must have been what, like Andy Payton, and I noticed actually that season you were talking about getting promoted from Division 4. Adrian Heath was the top scorer of the season after, who of course was coach at Sunderland for years.
yeah. Obviously, we've got some connections. Gordon Armstrong as well.
Yeah.
I
Kevin Ball
am
as well.
yeah, I love Kevin Ball. I'm actually in contact with Gordon at the minute, getting him on the pod. I need to confirm a time. I'm hoping to get it done for this Friday to get it out on Saturday. So I will be asking him about his Sunderland era as well. Kevin Ball. The reason why Burnley fans love Kevin Ball, he didn't even do that much for us. He wasn't even there that long. But we played Blackburn in 2000.
Yeah.
That might have been 1999. I mean, the first 2 or 3 minutes, he absolutely crunched David Dunn. Absolutely crunched him, like literally, like left him in a heap on the floor. So that's a great memory of Kevin Ball. But yeah, Andy Payton, brilliant. He's from Burnley as well. Well, he's from Paddington, which is that's like a small town next to Burnley, but he's part of the borough of Burnley. Andy Cook as well. He was another great sort of that era, man of that era. Paul Weller, Glenn Little, if we go on a little bit further. Dean West, I always looked up at because I used to play right back. Steve Davis, Marlon Beresford. Yeah, those are my glory years. They're my glory years. Like growing up watching Burnley, late primary school, early secondary school, sort of that time.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But yeah, just getting into more modern times. I mean, especially looking back in the last decade or so. I mean, Burnley have been in the Premier League for 9 out of the last 12 seasons. And, we talked about that dropping down into Division 4. And I mean, in relative terms, it's not that long ago. And when I kind of grew up, Burnley were kind of in the bottom 2 divisions, seemingly trying to get into that second tier. But is it still looked at, by Burnley fans as almost an achievement that they've spent so much time in the Premier League over that last decade or so?
I think so, yeah. It depends on your generation, I think. For me, it is an achievement. Like, I never thought I would see Burnley in the Premier League, full stop. Like, I just didn't think we were that size of club. And in the mid-90s, you could say that is the case, or was the case, should I say. So when we got promoted in 2009 at Wembley, I was like, oh my God. Like, I remember we went to Anfield and lost 4-0. We went everywhere and lost 4-0, if I remember rightly. But I remember someone talking to me, like, come up and went, what about Burnley, 4-0 at Anfield? That's rubbish, that. And I'm like, are you joking me? Like, we're Burnley, we're Premier League. Like, that was the mentality then. But obviously since then, like you said, 9 years out of the last 12, I do feel like we don't get as much respect as we deserve for that achievement. Like, you'll see, like, Brentford have been in it now, 4 or 5 years, and everyone's like, oh, brilliant achievement from Brentford. Like, we were in it for like 7 years on the bounce, so we never really were given any respect. And we still are seen as like I don't want to mention any other podcasts on here, but there's a podcast that some young lads do. It's like a national podcast. I can't even remember the name of it, to be fair. But they did like the smallest teams in the Prem, and like 3 out of 4 of them picked Burnley. And I'm like, give it a rest, man. Like, yes, we are small, but you're telling me we're smaller than the likes of Brentford, Brighton. I know Brighton, some people these days, they've got the big stadium. It is a big city, but traditionally, they were awful for years. Bournemouth as well. So I feel like we've been in the Premier League long enough now to have a level of respect. I'm like, yeah, you're not tiny anymore. Obviously, you're never going to be as big as the likes of Sunderland, likes of Leeds, obviously Villa, and then your big six. You're never going to be up there. But I don't see why we're not in the conversation to be sort of like a lower end mid sort of like size of club in the Prem. Unfortunately, we have sort of like fallen on our sword a little bit slightly and got relegated more times than we'd like to do. Obviously, it's about to be a 3rd time in a row now in the Premier League. So that will probably diminish that slightly. But I sometimes see people, I know I shouldn't get rattled by these things, but when people do these like graphs of biggest clubs in the Prem, and then I see people putting Preston ahead of us and Watford, and I'm like, oh, come on, give it a rest, man. Like, it winds me up. But depending on your generation, yes, it is an achievement. It's mad though, because we got, like I said earlier, I referenced it earlier, we got promoted to Division 1, it was back then, in the year 2000. So that's 26 years ago. So if you were born in like 1998 onwards, because you're not going to remember that before that, or even 97, 96, you have no memory of Burnley being in the bottom two divisions, and that
Yeah.
is so bizarre to me because I grew up, like I said, watching them in Division 4, watching them in what was then Division 2 as well. So yeah, it's alien to me. So I think if you asked a 17-year-old, is that an achievement? They'd be like, no, we've got relegated too many times. But you ask somebody my age, like, yeah, of course it is, definitely. And let's not forget, I don't want to become one of them fans because I hate this sort of like this fan. But we nearly went out of business in 1987 or at 1989. I can't remember. I think it was 87 in the Orient game. If we'd have lost that game, we'd have fallen out of the Football League altogether. Burnley wouldn't exist anymore, or not in its current guise anyway. We might have done an Ackerd to Stanley and become a Phoenix club. Who knows? But if you mention it to that era, they're like, wow, yes, of course it's an achievement. Some of them, you're not allowed to be annoyed at the fact that we've lost a game because some of them go Orient. And you're like, So I do see it as an achievement, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did mention going back to that kind of promotion under Owen Coyle. I think, was it Owen Coyle? Going back to that first promotion, yeah.
Judas.
Yeah. It was, it kind of, the ball got rolling then, but obviously kind of Sean Dyche kind of stepped it up a bit and, manager for around 10 years after he arrived in 2012. I mean, he must be still looked at as a bit of a legend in and around.
100%. 100%. Like, it's still alien to me that he's not our manager. Like, I'll be watching Forest, for example, or Everton when they were there, and it'll sometimes cut to him and he's in an Everton trackie or a Forest trackie. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Still not got used to it. But obviously the Royal Dyche is still there. Like Justine, who's the landlord of the pub, landlady, should I say? I don't know what the terminology is these days. She's obviously not renamed it to, like, I don't know, King Parker or whatever. So yeah, obviously he's still a legend. Like, what he did for the football club was absolutely superb, and it's such a shame to see us sort of like take a few steps backwards since then. But yeah, Owen Kyle started it in 2009, and to be fair to Owen, like, he left us in the lurch, and I'll never forgive him for that. I'd love to get him on the podcast and pick his brains, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah,
be good than that.
yeah, it would. Genuinely, I was 21 at the time, and not to be too dramatic, but I was heartbroken. I was like, how could he do this to us? But obviously, he went to Bolton halfway through the season, and I don't know if we'd have stayed up with him or not because the sides, the wheels had started to fall off. But we'd have still a far better chance than what we did under Brian Laws, put it that way. But yeah, he got the ball rolling, and without that promotion in 2009, I'm not sure Sean Dyche gets us up in what was it, 2014 as well. So yeah, Sean Dyche really did kick on, and obviously he got relegated in his first year. Let's not forget Sean Dyche. Well, not his first year, the first year of the Premier League. Then he took us back up and then steadied the ship, and then we're there for what felt like light years. But it's light years as a distance. Actually, ignore that. But yeah, and obviously people forget as well. I know I referenced it earlier. Like, we finished 7th. Like, Burnley finished 7th in the Premier League once, and then we finished in the top 10 on top of that twice.
Yeah.
So again, this is another thing. Like, if Brighton do that, everyone's like, oh my god, what a great club! Look at what they've done. Burnley that. We're like, that's what I mean about the respect. It winds me up. I just feel like we don't get the respect that we deserve. But yeah, Sean Dyche, to go back to your question, still a legend at the club, an absolute brilliant manager, and we'll always be thankful for what he did.
Yeah, it's almost a bit like the way that you do it, where it's almost people look at Brighton and Brentford and go, oh, they've been really clever. Whereas because it was Sean Dyche and you were good at set pieces, it's almost like, oh, well, it was a bit of a fluke how Burnley did it.
Yeah, but now look at Arsenal. They're good at set pieces, and because it's them, everyone's like, oh, wow, look at what they've done. Football's gone another way now. But yet when Dyche was doing it, it's dinosaur, absolute dinosaur. I hate these narratives in football. Like, Sean Dyche was, no matter what he does, he was very, very quickly pigeonholed as a dinosaur, set piece sort of manager, like your Sam Allardyce, as somebody like that, and stuff like that. So, yeah, having said that, like, when we won the championship at a canter under Vincent Kompany, everyone was purring over us and how great we were. So I have seen the other side of it. But for Sean Dyche, I mean, this sounds rich after Vincent Kompany's just won the Bundesliga and is about to win it again. And they've done very well in the Champions League. But I guess it's horses for courses. But Sean Dyche was a better manager for Burnley than Vincent Kompany was, and Vincent Kompany wouldn't be able to do what Dyche did. Hence why we went down with an absolute whimper under Vincent Kompany in his first Premier League season.
Yeah, just quickly on Kompany, did it always seem inevitable when he was appointed and going through and obviously getting you promoted that he would leave in the way that he did eventually?
Not in the way that he did as such, but I always did suspect that he would leave. And I never thought he'd spend a year lying to us and going on about the project. And he basically used the 5-year project as a shield for criticism in that season. Like, everyone was like, oh, this season's awful. He's like, whoa. don't forget the project. We're a year ahead of the project. This is a 5-year project to establish Burnley in the Premier League and then kick on. So you can't criticise me at the minute. I'm ahead. And then as soon as some interest, it's by it's weird. Like, you can be annoyed at the way he left and also understand it. Like, people sometimes will sit there and go, "It's Bayern Munich. What do you want?" So no, I respect that, but I don't use that as a shield for 2 years and be like, "I'm here for the 5 years. I'm here for the project. Vincent Kompany is part of this project as well," and then just leave. But at the same time, it's Bayern Munich. It's what I think is the 5th biggest team in Europe. You could probably argue. I think I said that on a Bayern Munich podcast actually when he left, and the amount of grief I got is like, well, we're definitely the second. It's like, oh yeah, I don't think you're bigger than Man United and Liverpool personally.
Yeah,
I'd even put Barcelona ahead of him. But yeah, it always felt inevitable that he would leave. The natural progression felt like City, obviously. I think Pep Guardiola's. He had 5 years left on his contract at the time that he came in. I can't remember. But we always felt like he would naturally go to Man City, maybe a middling club in between, like your Evertons or your Villas, somebody like that. But to go from getting relegated in spectacular fashion with Burnley, that was an awful season in the Premier League, to then getting the Bayern Munich job. It was so bizarre. We were like, what? I remember when it first came out, I was like, yeah, no, they're not going to want it. And then he's there on play, and I'm like, hold on a second, come back. What's all that about? But yeah, it felt inevitable he would leave, but not necessarily in that manner.
Yeah. Well, before we get onto this season, I think we'll take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
Año Nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
And welcome back to How the podcast. And just quickly before we get on to the current season, Joe, I just wanted to mention obviously the promotion last year, because look, it was a real strange one. You know, Scott Parker obviously coming in. Did very well, of course, 100 points, 24 more than Sunderland, by the way. I just put that out there straight away. Conceded just 16 goals, but there was so much written throughout the season that almost the fact that some Burnley fans actually didn't take to the way Parker was setting the side up, even though they were getting all the points. I mean, was that a big thing for some fans, or did most just not care as long as you went straight back up?
I think a lot of us didn't care. There was a vocal minority, as there always is. Like, don't get me wrong, there was times when I was frustrated as well, especially in the first half of the season, because the first half of the season, I think when we signed Marcus Edwards in late January, if I remember rightly, we were 4th. I think Leeds were top. Sheffield United might have been second, or you might have been second, or you were above us as well. And then when we signed Marcus Edwards, Parker did release the shackles slightly, get the ball to Edwards. He would stretch play. And that first half of the season, though, it was tough to watch. Like, some games were tough to watch. Like, we didn't even beat Blackburn in that first half of the season. You know what I mean? Like, Blackburn Rovers, like we drew at home with them. We drew at home with Preston North End. Like, there was so many 0-0s. That was the annoying thing. There was so many 0-0s, and it would just like. And again, no disrespect to these clubs, but I think Derby had just come up, or they're in on the second season in the Championship at the time. We drew 0-0 there. Pompey had just come up. We drew 0-0 there, and we just. It wasn't because it weren't a case of 0-0, we're Burnley, we should be beating these. It was a case of we didn't see enough on the pitch for the players that were trying to win the match. It was just a case of Scott Parker will be defence first, and he still is, and then think about attacks. And it just so many times in the Championship, and like I said, we'd slipped down to 4th. We'd drawn too many games. I think I know we set a record for the best ever defence in the Championship. But we're also, I think, close to a record of the amount of 0-0s. And it was just tough to watch. Like, you've got to remember as well, we came from the Vincent Kompany Championship season where we would literally be 3-0 up after 15 minutes in some games. We would just blow teams away and then sit back. Frustratingly, we did that against Blackburn and Preston as well, which is so annoying. Like, put these to the sword. Like, I want 6-7, but no, we went to 3-0 and sat back. So it was just so different at first. And I think a lot of fans, it were quite hypocritical, really, because we'd gone from Sean Dyche and everyone being like, yeah, set it up, dinosaur football, get a header, who cares, 1-0, to Vincent Kompany, and like, I'm being on this champagne football. Then all of a sudden back to a sort of like a defensive manager, and some fans had tasted the sweet life and they wanted it again. But I personally was like, I do not care. Just finish in the top 2, or if we have to win the playoffs. As long as we're in the Premier League next season, that is all I'm bothered about. But I expected us to kick on a little bit more than what we have, because now we're just going to be in the same position again next season.
Yeah, well, taking all that into account, was there any doubt at the club or with the fans that like Scott Parker was the right man to try and keep Burnley in the Premier League after he got you promoted?
No, like we're not like Leeds fans. Like, I know Leeds fans had this sort of like delusions of grandeur again, like they always do. Like, yeah, well, we've won the championship, but get rid of him. Like, what? No, you give the man a chance. Like, all right, in hindsight, binning him off potentially could have been a good idea. Who knows? But like, I don't ever want us to be that football club where you win the league or finish in the top 2 on 100 points as well. I know you've already referenced it, but let's not forget that 100 points. Like he, on the balance of it, like I said, the first part of the season was frustrating. But you've got to remember, in that first part of the season, we sold like 90% of the team. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but we sold so many players in such a short space of time in that last 2 weeks of the transfer window. That's when we played you up at the Stadium of Light and you beat us 1-0. That squad was depleted. Like, we had nobody playing, and even all the players that we hadn't sold yet thought they were getting sold, so they were on the bench. I think I remember James Trafford did play in that game up at the Stadium of Light. So we were depleted, and then the week after that, again, not to mention him again, sorry for swearing, but we played Blackburn Rovers. And I'm thinking, like, why are you selling the entire squad? This is the biggest game of the season. We need to make sure we win it. And then they sold 90% of the players and then brought in an entire new squad. And Scott Parker had to deal with that. He had to settle the squad down again and kick on and go again. So when you zoom out, yes, there were frustrating parts of it. And the 0-0s, a lot of it were coming in the first half of the season when you could argue the squad was still settling. But yeah, he did a magnificent job to get a team from that awful Premier League campaign under Vincent Kompany to watch a lot of them walk out the door as soon as he's come in, to get a new squad to then get us back into the Premier. He did a good job last season in the Championship, and obviously the best defence the Championship has ever seen statistically. So he was always going to be given the chance. Having said that, I'm now in a position where I think we should have sacked him like 2 months ago. Like we should have given him the chance, gone, right, nothing's changed, you're still not good enough for this level. Thank you, shake your hands, here's 5 million quid, whatever, off your pot, bring in somebody else. When we lost 7 games in a row, that should have been when it were. We're now 14 without a win. There's still, like, fans were calling for his head, like I said, 6 weeks ago, myself included on the pod. And now we're just in a position where there was no point calling for it anymore because we know it's not going to happen. Like, we're 14 without a win. Like, how far is it going to have to go before Alan Pace pulls the plug? Obviously, he's the chairman. So yeah, there was never any doubt that he was going to be given the chance. But I feel like now that he's been given the chance and he's been proven he's not good enough for this level, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, looking at the 4 seasons before this one, for Burnley, it either involved getting promoted to the Premier League or being relegated from it. I mean, when promotion was confirmed this time around, was there a feeling like with Burnley fans, surely they've learned from these previous kind of promotions that we're not going to make the same mistakes?
Yeah. It was that feeling, yeah. But I feel like we've just repeated the same mistakes. The recruitment's not been good enough. Like, when you look at, I don't know, I may have said things on an earlier podcast where I think when you were signing all these players that I'd never heard of, I was like, oh, hold on, that's what we did last time. That's what we did last time. And when we went up under Vincent Kompany, we were signing players that I'd never heard of from Europe. And a lot of our players turned out to not be good enough. Or even if they did have the technical ability, they just couldn't withstand the physicality of the Premier League. Or they go missing in the winter months because they couldn't get used to the weather or whatever it were. So I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, Sunderland might struggle because of that. You've obviously done what we've done, but actually signed good players. That's the difference. So I think our recruitment team has got a lot to answer for, in my opinion. We signed a lot of dross last time in the Premier League. I don't feel like we've signed much better, if at all, this time. Having said that, we did sign a lot of quality last year in the Championship for the Championship. So the recruitment team probably is a Championship, sort of level recruitment team. But yeah, in hindsight, even though I never said this at the time, I wanted to stick by Vincent Kompany last time because I always said to myself, I enjoyed his football in the Championship. So I always thought I would like to see him get us back up to the Premier League and then do what we did with Dyche. Because like I said, Sean Dyche got promoted, then got relegated. That was his first ever taste of Premier League football. And then he got promoted again. Then he learnt his lessons and we stayed up and just improved and improved. I thought if we did that with Vincent Kompany, he would do the same. He would get up and improve and become maybe not an elite manager, but I did always say, like, he feels like a type of manager that will be the Belgian manager one day, will be winning titles with City. He's gone on to win titles with Bayern Munich. So I was correct, just sort of like the wrong club. Whereas with Scott Parker, I think this is now his 3rd relegation, or he might have got sacked before the other 2 relegations, so he could probably argue he's not had any. But I don't feel like Scott Parker he's ever going to be a Premier League quality manager. He's ever going to be good enough to keep a team in the Premier League. And a lot of fans are now saying, oh, well, we're going to go down. Isn't anyone good enough to take us back up? So, yeah, maybe. But do you want to watch that football again in the Championship and draw 15 games 0-0 again against the likes of Preston and Derby? No disrespect to Derby. Full disrespect to Preston. And then be back at square one when we get promoted again. Because again, even if we do get promoted again, which obviously isn't a guarantee, we're going to have a manager that has proven time and time again he isn't good enough for the Premier League. So, yeah, there's no signs of him getting sacked, though. So it's looking like we are going to be stuck with him.
Yeah, but I mean, I was looking at the summer, though, and I was trying to work it out, and it was roughly, it looked around 100 million you've spent. Could you not argue in some ways he was let down a little bit by who they brought in or who they spent that money on?
Somewhat, yes. I do feel the squad isn't good enough to finish 17th. When you look at even Wolves, you could argue have got a better squad than ourselves. I was arguing like 6 weeks ago that Leeds' squad is probably only a tiny bit better than ours, and I probably will argue there's probably a little bit more room there now than what I first anticipated. But they've just got a manager that was put under pressure, and he responded by changing the system. And now we got. I don't know if you watched Leeds on Monday night, but they looked so good in that first half against Everton. Yeah. They were putting Everton on the back foot. They were playing nice football. They have a manager and a striker. I know Dominic Calvert-Lewin had his sort of like eyebrows were raised when they signed him in the summer. But they've got a striker that called the ball up, who could put the ball in the back of the net if needs be. They've got a manager who puts players on the back. Sorry, his own players on the front foot and teams on the back foot. Scott Parker doesn't do any of that. He starts the game on the back foot. He starts the game defensively. He lets teams come on to us and then tries to counter with them, and we don't have any pace. So, yes, I will argue that the team probably isn't good enough to finish 17th. However, there are squads around us that have better managers and are doing better. And what I will say is the squad isn't 14 without a win squad. It isn't 7 defeats in a row squad. I do think you can get more out of this squad. But at the minute, Parker, it isn't. And I don't think he ever will. I don't think he's good enough.
Well, actually, going back to Leeds, they were one of the best sides we've seen at the stadium like this season. They were brilliant when they came
you're
up.
Not the first person to say that, yeah.
Yeah, they were fantastic. But just you talked about that bad run, and we'll get onto that a little bit. But looking at the start of the season, you had a shocking fixture list. You were good at Spurs in the opening day, but it ended 3-0. And then you beat us in your first home game. And then you had close defeats against Man United and Liverpool. 2 wins against Leeds and Wolves in October meant you had, I think it was 3 wins out of the first 9.
I think we're like 14th at that point.
Yeah, it looked from that point that you got off to a really good start.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we thought you'd be down there with us at the time. So even though we'd beaten you, Leeds and Wolves, we're like, well, we just need to beat the teams around us. Like that's all we need to do. And like you said, you referenced the Man United and Liverpool defeats there. Never a penalty at Man United.
Yeah,
Ahmad threw himself to the floor. Obviously a 97th minute penalty from Bruno, and same again against Liverpool. I think we're a 93rd Salah penalty. So I genuinely, and I think I know I've already referenced it, but I think I went on Football Focus after that Wolves game, before the Forest game, I think it was. And I remember saying like, yeah, I actually think we'll stay up now. If you look at what we've done, we just need to beat the teams around us. I think we'll go on and beat Forest today, and we'll go even further up the table. Obviously, we drew at Forest at home to Forest, and honestly, I don't know what it is. But we've just been awful since then. We've just been awful. Parker's, he doesn't know his best team. I think ultimately he doesn't know his best formation. He constantly plays 5 at the back. But again, not to reference Leeds and blow too much smoke up their backside, but they played 5 at the back at the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Monday, and they had full-backs bombing forward, getting back. They had a strong centre-half or 3 centre-halves. We don't have any of that at the minute. Like, we have Lucas Perez and Kyle Walker, and they show flashes of okay. I'm going to say brilliance. I don't want to go brilliant, so I'm going to say okayness. Obviously, Kyle Walker put the ball in for one of the goals against Spurs. He put the ball in for the goal against Leeds. Kyle Walker actually had a really good start to the season, but defensively, because they're going forward so much, they're not getting back quick enough, and there's so many gaps at the back. So yeah, it's just been tough, and I just feel like since that early start to the season, and I can't even blame injuries because Josh Cullen only got injured like 3-4 weeks ago, and we were like on a 12-game winless run then, maybe like 10, I don't know, but yeah, I just feel like there's been too much, too many poor results in there, too many poor performances. Whereas at the start of the season, we were battling and we were staying in games. Whereas now there's too many errors, too many defensive mistakes. And yeah, we just keep letting ourselves down, giving the ball away. We have got better recently, which I'm sure you'll get onto. And if you look at it, a draw at Anfield, a draw at home against United, and a draw at home against Spurs, are okay results individually. But when West Ham have won 2 in a row and Forest have won and you go 10 points adrift, it's just not enough.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, look, since that win over Wolves 26th of October, like you've already said, you've gone 14 without a win. But you've talked about those draws, and there's been 5 draws in the last 7 games, which suggests, you know, and then, like you said, Man United in there, Liverpool, Spurs. So, I mean, you know, you're not talking about wins, but are you turning a corner?
Turning the corner is dramatic. I think maybe we're just heading towards sort of like I don't know. I won't say we've turned a corner. Turning a corner to me would suggest that, yeah, we're going to start winning games. Who knows? We might get a win on Monday night. I'm not predicting it, if I'm honest with you. But there's definite signs of improvement. Like the way I've referenced it or sort of like described it is very small shoots of positivity are starting to grow. And if this run of form or these performances and these results was at the start of the season, as you've already referenced, we did have some okay results at the start of the season, or after them results that you've already referenced, then I'd be like, yeah, we've got more than enough. We're staying in games. Yeah, we probably should have beaten Spurs at home due to the form that they were in, and could have offered a little bit more against Manchester United, but a draw at Anfield as well, fantastic. I'd probably be like, yeah, we've got enough. But what? There's 16 games left. We have to win probably 8 of them. Like if we won the next 3 games in a row, right, it's not going to happen. But in a hypothetical situation, if we won the next 3 games in a row and Leeds lost every single game and Forest lost every single game and West Ham lost every single game, we would still be in the relegation zone. That's how bad it is at the minute. We need a 20-point swing on Forest. And yeah, I just can't see it happening. So yeah, it is bleak at the minute, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the transfer window straight off the bat, but how are Burnley looking at that? Because James Ward-Prowse has come in, but is the kind of risk reward at the minute that the club are thinking, well, what's the point? We could go big on trying to stay up. Look out, I think West Ham have bought 2 strikers for 50 million to try and go for it. Is Burnley thinking, well, let's not do that because we need them purse strings to be tight in the Championship next season?
I would imagine so. I mean, it'd be stupid of Burnley to go and spend like 30 million quid now on a Weghorst, for example, which is what we did last time. Well, not last time, the time before. We brought players in January. Having said that, last time we were in the Premier League, we brought in Maxime Esteve on loan with a view to buy. He was fantastic, so we bought him. We brought in Assignon on loan with a view to. We tried to buy him, but I think he wanted to leave when we got relegated. So we have done okay business. The last time we were in the Championship, about to be relegated to the Championship. Whereas this time, there's been no rumours as such. There's been not much really on the grapevine. Yes, obviously James Ward-Prowse has come in, but he's coming on loan until the end of the season. It's like, yes, you want to see the club make a bit of an effort, but I also think the club know that they're down and they're thinking, right, we'll go big in the summer again. We'll try and keep some of the money to go big in the summer again. So I do think there is that. But I think JWP coming in is an okay signing. I think it's a decent bit of business. He's on loan. I think we're probably paying the majority of his wages. It's also a bit of a bizarre move, I think, as well from a West Ham perspective, because they've given they must fully think that we are done, which I agree with. But West Ham must think we'll just give it to Burnley because they're not going to catch us. They're not going to catch Forest. They are definitely relegated. It gives our player some minutes, and then we can have him again next season. Even if we get relegated, then he'll be a West Ham player in the Championship. So. Maybe you could look at it and think that's a good bit of business from West Ham, but ultimately, I do feel like they have slightly strengthened a relegation rival. Whether it's going to be enough to even put us to within 9 points of Forest, who knows? But I think he improves it slightly. He'll probably fill the gap left by the injured Josh Cullen. But I'm just not sure where it fits into Parker's system. Personally, Parker's system is far too defensive. I think Parker will probably play him in the double pivot alongside Florentino Luis, because Florentino Luis is a brilliant ball winner, but on the ball he's poor. So he needs players around him that want the ball, that want possession. Cullen was one of them. Cullen's always there wanting the ball. And I think we've missed that in the last few weeks, and Florentino gets caught in possession quite a lot. So, yeah, there's kind of sort of like apathy towards the season at the minute, and I think the club are doing that as well. Like I said, JWP does improve us, but the main areas where we need improvement are defence and sort of like in the forward line as well. And he is neither. So I think that's why a lot of fans are a bit sort of like, not underwhelmed, because I think a lot of fans do agree he improves us, but thinking, okay, yeah, fair enough, but could we get something in some of the other areas as well? But I'll be surprised.
Yeah, if let's say it does happen, it'll be the 5th season in a row you've either gone up and down. I mean, what's it going to take to break this cycle?
Oh, you've got to look at what Sunderland have done, haven't you? And potentially Leeds to a lesser extent. And it's a whole new recruitment team, a new manager. I think that's the case. Maybe even a new board. Because since ALK and Alan Pace have come in, that I'm not going to blame them for the first relegation because I think they came in like late January and we were already looking sort of like over our shoulders at that point. They sacked Dash in around March or whatever it were. But since then, we've just not been able to kick on in the Prem. Yes, the Prem has moved on slightly, but Sunderland have proved that it can be done. Leeds have proved that it can be done. So yeah, just better recruitment and, in my opinion, a manager that can do it. Like I said, I would have got rid of Parker. I just think ALK aren't ruthless enough sometimes. I know you mentioned earlier, would you have wanted Burnley to be very ruthless and sack Parker after finishing second? But I don't want us to be that ruthless.
Yeah. But now you're in this position, though. Is it not a case of Scott Parker is the best man for the job next season?
Potentially, and that's what some fans argue. But I don't know. And again, I sound very hypocritical again because I did sit here under the Vincent Kompany debacle of a Premier League season and say I want him to take us back up. But I think you've got to bring in sort of like the entertainment factor with Parker again. And it's not just that as well. It's like if we do go back up, again, then we're in the same position where we don't have a manager good enough for the Premier League, even if he's got another year of Championship experience under his belt. Like, there's something about him; he just doesn't change. Like if you speak to Fulham and Bournemouth fans, he's still playing the same style. He's still being stubborn. He's still being too defensive. He's still being too cautious. So even if he takes us back up, we're in the same position. And another thing as well, I think a lot of people don't take into account that after such a poor season, and this is where I sound hypocritical, but after such a poor season, like hearing the same things from the same mouth going into the same ears can be a little bit sort of like tedious and not have the same effect. So when Scott Parker came in and galvanised the lads last time and sort of like, right, we're going to build from the back and do it that way, that I'm sure it worked loads. But next time, if he gets relegated and Connor Roberts is hearing the same thing for the third season in a row and stuff like that, you're probably thinking, I'm a bit fed up with this now. And I think that's ultimately what happened to Sean Dyche at Burnley. Like we did after propelling up the leagues. Eventually, the same message going into the same ears. Hence why we actually nearly stayed up without Sean Dyche, even though he was a far better manager than who were it we had at the time, Mike Jackson and Ben Mee, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So. It's one of them. I would personally change it for next season, but I don't have any names for you. I think I looked at a few earlier in the season when I wanted us to get rid of him to try and stay up, but that's gone now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next season.
Yeah, could give Big Sam a ring, but he's too busy doing is it Just Eat adverts or whatever it is at the minute. With the rest of them.
Who is it? Alan Pardew and Julius, is it?
The rest of the gang, but anyway,
I should be on them adverts soon.
Yeah, not be long. But yeah, the game on Monday, just a win and 2 draws from 11 games away from home for Burnley. But to be fair, you've only scored one fewer on the road than Arsenal this season, which is just a bizarre stat. And that was actually the same record as West Ham's home form before we went there and got battered last week. But like I said, only 5 points taken out of those 11 games. Should we be wary in terms of almost the pressure being a little bit off because of the position you're in?
No. I just think it's you respond to it. Like I don't think you need to worry about us. I think if you lose on Monday, I think you're beating yourselves because I've spoken to a couple of Sunderland fans this week, obviously through the podcast and through some people that I know from living in Sunderland for a year. And again, feel free to correct me on this. Obviously, I've not been to the Sol this season because we haven't played there yet, and I won't be going on Monday night. But they were saying that like the atmosphere at the start of the season was like really raucous, like you were roaring the lads over the line. Whereas now, like you've achieved what you wanted to achieve by looking like you're going to stay up. Like the atmosphere is falling away a little bit. If on Monday night the atmosphere was bouncing and were really really loud, I'm sure you could beat us and beat us relatively comfortable. I don't think you'll run away with the game, but I mean, on the balance of play, it'll be comfortable. But also, what I've also noticed with Sunderland is like the last couple of times, obviously we played against each other. Obviously they've both been at Turf. Is we let you have the ball, and you do struggle with that. Obviously, I don't know what you're like now, but at the start of the season, we let you have the ball the majority of the time, and you struggle to break us down. And then obviously we hit you where it hurt when we could. It's different at the Sol, obviously. We lost there last season, albeit through a depleted squad, but you deserved to win that match. You were by far the better side. So it's going to be interesting. If it's 0-0 after 50 minutes and your fans start getting a little bit arsey, then that could play right into our hands, and who knows, then we could nick something. But like I said, in that scenario, that's the only sort of scenario where I see us winning. And I think in that occasion, you're beating yourselves because the fans have got restless. It then obviously goes on to the pitch, the players get restless. Obviously, the good thing for us is that Xhaka is missing. And I think that sort of like contributed to your defeat at West Ham on, was it Saturday? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually watched that in the fan zone at the Turf because it was the early game, weren't it? I'm sat there fuming, so thank you for that. So yeah, there are elements where we can sort of like exploit, like I said, Xhaka missing and letting you have the ball. But I think ultimately, you've shown this season that you've got better players than us now. You're currently a better side than us. The league table doesn't lie. So you should have enough to see us off, unfortunately, from a Burnley perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a really tight game. Actually, it always seem to be against when we play Burnley. Especially the one this season and the two last season. But yeah, I mean, you've already touched on it there, I think. But is that what type of game you think it'll be? Do you think Burnley will basically just kind of sit in, let us have it, and do they look to catch teams on the break?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. Unfortunately, they don't tend to have much pace. So that's why it's not really worked. But yeah, we'll play 5 at the back, which I don't like. Parker will play 5 at the back with the 2 wing backs. I'd like to see him be a little bit more adventurous than 5 at the back. That clearly doesn't work, but it's going to be 5 at the back. We'll sort the pressure up. We'll play the 2 defensive pivots. We'll have put 3 sort of like forwards across the front line with a 10 in there as well, potentially, depending on which way he wants to go. And then look to hit you on the counter. But thing is, we do have Marcus Edwards now, who's come back into the side, which he should have been playing all season. That's another sort of like blot on Parker's sort of like copybook. He does have some pace. So if we can get the ball to him, after you've sort of like attacked us and given the ball away, then that's how hopefully we will hurt you. But unfortunately for us, Marcus Edwards tends to pass the ball to Armando Broja, and then he'll take 14 working days to get his shot away. And by then, everyone's back and sort of like defended and cleared the danger. So that's how I'm expecting it to go. But I would like Parker to be a little bit more adventurous as and where he can.
Yeah, well, last one, because you've already kind of mentioned that 10 points from safety, you're not really expecting miracles this season. But if we caught up a year from now, would you be expecting Burnley to be top of the Championship?
It depends who comes down with us, weirdly enough. I think last time when we got relegated with Luton and Sheffield United. So I didn't really fear any of them, with all due respect to Luton and Sheffield United. Whereas if we got down with Wolves, yeah, well, exactly. And obviously you beat Sheffield United in the final. Yeah. So I'd expect us to be there or thereabouts. I would expect us to be there or thereabouts. It'll be tough to beat West Ham to the title if they come down with us. I'm not sure what their financial situation is. Who knows? They might end up having a couple of years of sort of mediocrity. I know Wolves have been absolutely god awful, and it's tough to turn it around when you've been so awful. But again, they're a decent sized club with good players. You don't know who's going to go and who's going to stay. They might have to go through a massive overhaul. Who knows? But yeah, we are very good in the Championship. We lost 2 games last season, 3 games a season before that we were in the Championship, and 5 games a season before that. So we don't lose often in the Championship, so we tend to do well. So yeah, we'll be there or thereabouts. But with all due respect to the Championship, and I'm not going to be one of these fans who sits there and goes, "Oh, I prefer it because there's no VAR. I want to be in the Championship." Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy being in the Championship, but I only enjoy being in the Championship because we do well in it. If we end up doing a Norwich, all right, Norwich are in great form at the minute, but before the appointed Clement and looking over our shoulders, or what Stoke have been the last few seasons, I will hate it. If I'm finishing 14th in the Championship, I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh well, at least there's no VAR." I'm going to be like, "Oh, this is awful. This is awful." I enjoy the Championship because we win the Championship or do very well in the Championship. So yeah, for me, yeah, I expect us to be there or thereabouts. But it depends on who we come down with. If West Ham, but again, even if West Ham manage to pull out of it, they're going to bring Forest in there with us, and they've got a lot of money. Even if their owner is for want of a better phrase, sort of like mental. So in an ideal world, the best of a bad bunch is bring Leeds down with us. But even then, obviously, they beat us to the punch last season. So we'll be top 4, I'd imagine. We'll be there or thereabouts. Whether we win it again or not is another thing.
Yeah, well, going off history repeating itself, I think the clever money will be on Burnley next season to bounce straight back up and go up as champions. But yeah, because the game's on Monday, Joe, I can say have a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, thank you. You too,
and it just leaves me to say thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
No, thank you for inviting us, mate. It's always good.
Good stuff. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, we'll have our preview on the morning of the game on Monday, as well as immediate reaction after the final whistle and potentially some reaction to big signings. You never know. We'll also have all the reaction on the Local Report website. So look out for all of that. But from us, it's bye for now.